we are very aware of the interest in this entire process. And as such, we have decided to be very, almost want to say economical with how we engage through the media. But we were appreciative of this opportunity because, what is on the table, what we are dealing with, and to your point that you are raising is that I've always been clear through the assistance of Mlilo and the entire legal team to say that I fundamentally believe that this issue was rooted in racism. And I would like for this to be dealt with at an appropriate forum or in the appropriate manner. I'm very confident in the Human Rights Commission. It's an institution that is wholly responsible for almost what they say the custodianship of human rights and human rights related violations and issues, the promotion thereof within South Africa and the democratic dispensation of South Africa. So my confidence stems not from necessarily my position or the situation, but it stems from the foundation of our liberation as a democratic, non-sexist, non-racist society, equal in opportunities for all South Africans. The foundation upon which this country's Rainbow Nation, the philosophy, the ideals by which we live was built, the thought that went into the determination of the Constitution. So our Constitution is regarded as one of the best constitutions in the world. And so my confidence lies not in me. It lies, I heavily rely on my legal and support team. Advocate Senior Counsel Myron Durance is not with us yet on the show. So is Varuska and Basni, the junior counsels. Mlilo has been spearheading this process. And I can just say for me as an individual, not the word Ubuntu, but the meaning that it espoused is why I'm sitting in this chair tonight. Because can you imagine if on the Sunday morning, post the 19th of May, can you imagine if I had sit in the wrong council? How an issue that have subsequently proven to be something that is of significant importance to society, the fundamental basic rights of human beings. This is what we're talking about. And what a privilege and honor it is for me to bear what I not want to call a burden, but rather be in the midst of things, because it allows me to also teach myself, learn through, the legal professionals, learn through society, learn through history about the journey that we've traveled. I think Mandela was a very wise man when he said, it's a long walk to freedom.
I want to come in there and perhaps bring in your legal representative. The SuperSport platform, that inquiry led by Senior Counsel Vincent Maleka, what was problematic about it? Why did you not want to participate there?
It was problematic on a number of levels, and I can go to town about it, but I'm going to pick on two.
Yeah.
The first issue was that Ashwin was an independent contractor to SuperSport, and we then sought to inquire the status of the inquiry that was going to be conducted by Advocate Vincent Maleka, because as an independent contractor, he's not an employee, so he cannot be subjected to a process which resembles a disciplinary hearing, although you don't call it that, but its form and substance would be that of a disciplinary hearing. So we sought to understand what the status of that inquiry would be. The second issue was the issue of process. How was he going to conduct this investigation? And he indicated that he was going to have discussions with people that he considered relevant for his investigations, but those discussions would happen in silo. He would speak to A, you'd speak to B, you'd speak to C, you'd speak to whoever he wants to speak to, not in the presence of the other. So these discussions would happen between him and the person concerned. And that's, I can see you're smiling, that's inherently problematic because, one, we don't know what is said, there's no opportunity to cross-examine, there's no opportunity to test the evidence that he's receiving. And he uses that evidence to arrive at certain conclusions. So both from a substantive process of saying, what is this process about? given the nature of the relationship between Ashwin and SuperSport. And secondly, from a process point of view, what is the process that you are using? And therefore, we suggested to Advocate Vincent Maleka that his process did not have the institutional capacity to appropriately deal with this matter, and therefore we suggested to him that he must refer the matter to the Human Rights Commission. At the material time, that suggestion was in fact scorned upon. And when the report came out, suddenly that recommendation finds itself back in Advocate Vincent Maleka's report, that the matter must be referred to the Human Rights Commission. So we are here now, the opportunity is welcome, and we think that the Human Rights Commission, as Ashwin has indicated, possesses both the institutional and process structure that is sufficient to have this matter properly ventilated.
All right, so the Human Rights Commission is therefore going to conduct this probe in February of 2019. Ashwin, I want to quickly touch on one of the terms of reference that the Human Rights Commission is going to touch on. And it says that it will examine, among other issues, whether the circumstances which led to you walking off set in May of this year demonstrated that your dignity, and this is quite important, your dignity and rights were violated. What humiliated you about the 19th of May on that particular day?
Xoli, you said briefly you want to touch on it, so I think in the interest of brevity, let me not go into the detail of the question you're asking. That detail, I think, will be for the entire nation to observe throughout the process when we discuss that in terms of what transpired, right? But I think you touched on another important thing, which is the violation of human dignity.
Why is it difficult for you to talk about what actually happened that day? Is it an issue of difficulty, or is it something that you want to hold back on for the time that you eventually appear before the Human Rights Commission? What exactly is it?
I appreciate your question again in that I assume you are assuming that I am finding it difficult to talk about it. Whereas personally, I feel that we will have an appropriate time to talk about it. And so at this point, the merits of the situation, I don't think we need to entertain that right now, because we'll get a chance for that as part of the process. But I want to rather spend this time talking about the element of human dignity. So it's not a hesitance and it's not a difficulty talking about it. My difficulty has always been to deal with what was transpiring. This is not a small anyana thing, man. You know, I see dignity matters in the eyes of my cousins, people that I considered to be men of great stature, my grandfather. I look around the block in my town of Caledon where I come from, and I see how people sit, dignified people sit in the doldrums. So the matter of dignity is one that for over 100 years, we've been talking about dignity. It's 70 years since the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights. 70 years, 1948, Second World War. Next year, 2019, whilst we're busy going through this process, we will have a 100-year celebration of the Treaty of Versailles, post the First World War. So the dignity issue, this is an issue where you can just look around you and you can see the dignity issue. So perhaps this will allow, through the Human Rights Commission and their process, to bring dignity back onto the table and say, let's engage on matters of dignity.
How?
How? So you see, I think I will not be so arrogant to say I know how. There has been, can you imagine this very table, this round table, if we have Steve Biko, Solomon Mahlangu, Walter Sisulu, Oliver Reginald Tambo, Albertina Sisulu, Mam Winnie Mandela, Kwame Nkrumah, Marcus Garvey, Julius Nyerere, Nelson Mandela, the founding fathers of the liberation movement of Africa, of South Africa. You can imagine if we have these people, the heads of state of Addis Ababa, 1963, at the inaugural sitting of the Organization of African Union, talking about the unification of Africa. Can you imagine if we had them around the table and we put the word dignity in 2018 there, right now? Can you imagine the discussion that will be had? So when you ask me how, I'm saying, I'm hoping that through this process and so many others that are currently going on, others that were not perhaps as fortunate as I was to get this quality legal service, pro bono, my brother, for free, mahala, nix. So can you imagine if we had that? Perhaps we would have advanced the discussion on human dignity, perhaps. So when you ask me how, I'm saying how. We are still talking 2018. Not, and this is, please, if time permits, I just want to make this point. So I was speaking to a friend of my wife. His name is Ash, and I want to actually reference him because, like her, he's a master's philosophy student at Wits University. A wonderful institution, right? Solomon Matlangu lecturing there, my brother. So now I'm saying, let's look at that. He says to me the following word. He says, inviolable. I'm saying, okay, you know, I'm like, inviolable, Meanwhile, I have no clue what inviolable means. You know, this is a fancy English word. So I go and I check inviolable. And I say, wow, this is the power of education. James Baldwin said, read, 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 and we can read no more than write. So he says inviolable. And I realized in that moment, human rights, dignity, as per the Constitution, as per the Bill of Rights, as per the founding document 1955, Kliptown, the Freedom Charter, human rights and dignity, these are inviolable rights. Inviolable rights. So how come 2018 we're sitting here and we're talking about this? So to your question, how? I'm saying, I'm hoping that the leaders of society will guide us in this process. I'm hoping that the institutions mandated to deal with the issues of human dignity, deal with the issues of human rights, equality, I hope that they will guide us in this process, because it is your right, my right, Mlilo's right, and every other woman and child that have gone through severe traumatic experiences. It's all of our rights to ensure it's inalienable, that it's guaranteed. We should not ask for it. It's like we don't ask to breathe air. It's ours. You breathe it, you wake up, you breathe. It is as fundamental to human existence. My existential validity is based upon my dignity as a human being. Pain is real.
I want to talk about that pain, but I'm going to ask us to take a breather for the moment, and we'll come back right after this. We continue our conversation with Ashwin Willemse and his legal representative, Nqobizitha Mlilo.